Right, so I believe we are live, which is exciting. I always like to leave a little bit of a delay just in case it takes a second to kick in. But hi, everybody, it's Charlie, and welcome to our live webinar. I've just can hear myself. So this is a live demonstration, and welcome to how to make a tech pack. This demonstration is part of the newly launched Members Club. So we've collaborated with an award-winning fashion consultant, James Hillman, who will be taking us through an example of how to put a tech pack together from start to finish and answer all of your burning questions in a live Q&A at the end. So if you're here, will you just put a little thing in the chat box to let me know that this is all working and that I'm not just talking to myself? And then fill it with all your questions, please, so that we've got loads and loads we can ask James at the end.
It doesn't necessarily have to be just about the tech pack, does it, really?
Oh, no, that's fine, yeah. So in the Members Club, we've been going through lots and lots about the design kind of process. So I've already been sent through quite a lot about, just some great questions on the kind of process generally. So anything about that would be brilliant. And then I was going to say, if that wasn't enough already, James Hillman has been amazing and has also given us a tech pack that we can use, and you can use it as a downloadable tech pack kind of template for yourself, with lots of kind of great notes on how you can use it so that you don't get stuck on your own. And yeah, basically it's the same drawing that we're using for this session. So if you do get stuck, you can just watch this back. So what else do I need to tell you? Oh yeah, so anybody who's not a member, and we will send you the tech pack separately in an email. And anyone who is a member, you can access that at any time from the website. Download. So without further ado, I will pass you over to James Hillman.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all well. Thanks, Charlie, for introducing me. Much appreciated. So today, as Charlie quite eloquently said, we're going to be going through a technical pack. As I've mentioned in my videos, the technical pack is essential line in order to make your product exactly how you want it to be. It's basically the encyclopedia for your garment, I was about to say. It's got all the relevant information on it. It's got all the details zoomed in, and it's the perfect way for your manufacturers to understand. But the more detail you give, the more chance of the product being perfect. You know, that's basically what it comes down to. And actually, it's about being clear, precise, and not giving too much information, but giving enough. So, you know, no long-winded explanations on how to do things. It's very short, sharp, and precise. Like, this is what this is. It's that size. It's that color. Bosh, done. And so this is how I tend to do it. So I'm just going to screen share now, so you don't have to see my terrible, tired face. And I'm gonna get us onto my screen so that you can see exactly the technical pack, which I'm going to be developing for you today. Now, it's actually, well, let me just get on it, and then I can explain. So can everyone see that? Can you see that, Charlie? Yeah. Okay, cool. So awesome. So this is an old technical that I did for a brand called Fitwear. I can use it because it's already been in production. It's already been one of their best sellers, and so whatever. And so I wanted to give a garment which is understandable for everyone here. So it's a sweater. And I wanted to give you something which has got specific stitching detailings, a detail which is slightly more unusual, and a print, which you can also consider as an embroidery as well, because the same principle applies. So it's a very basic garment for you guys to understand. And as you can see, it's a sweater. And so I always start out with drawing the technical front and back view. So I will before I even do the technical, I will do a range plan with all the front and backs on all the garments for the whole range, because that's really helpful in understanding and building a range. So once that's done, I then drag it and drop it into here. So the first page is the general garment overview, and it's written up there on the top left hand side. On every single page, I will write the style name, the pattern number. So what I mean by pattern number is basically the style code. So I normally do quite simply FW, which is fitwear, MW, which is menswear. So if it was women's wear, it's WW. And then I do the year, and then I do the collection name. So this was called pre-launch, and then what it is. And then
could you just zoom in a little bit?
Sorry, yeah, sure. There we go. Sorry, there we go. I forgot that text can't be read that well. So here we go. So style name is, we called this turbo. You can give it anything, and you can just give it a name, just a random name. It's totally fine. But ours was related to parts of a car, just for this collection, you know. So this one's called turbo. So the pattern number, FW for fitwear. So the brand. Then it's menswear, 2015. It's the pre-launch collection. It's a top, and the code of the top is number 6. So it's the number 6 top that we've done for them. And then I always do a description of what it is, just in case they have no idea, because it can happen. So it's a raglan crew sweat. So a raglan is the style of the sleeve, a crew is this type of the neck, and it's a sweater. So the silhouette is top. The factory you put in, I'm not going to tell you my factory because I'm not giving all my details away. And the season was 2015. Pattern pieces are dependent on the factory. I think that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 pattern pieces, so you can pop that in. And then the sizing is you could do 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, whatever sizing you're doing. You state that just so that they know what they have to work with. And then your sample size is really important, that you choose one size and you follow that through the whole range so that you can fit it on one person and make it perfect. Anyway, so I will always go, okay, so this is for sampling. And so I'll do a tick there, because you need to know what that technical is, because for costing only, the details might be different. And then for sampling, you might have to change it accordingly to the pricing. And then for bulk production, again, you might change it. So you don't want the manufacturers to be confused. So you need to state exactly what this technical is for. Now, when I'm starting, I will always not put anything on the front page apart from those details. The reason is I just want them to look at it and go, right, it's a top, and then there's some details on there. Now, the next thing I will do, let me just lock this down. The next thing I will do is I will drag this to the next page, which is outside details. Now, this page is probably the most critical page, and so I will always spend the most time on this, because it probably has more details than the inside. So what I will always do is I will always write all the details on the right hand side, and I'll try and limit the amount of written details I do on the main section here. And the reason is, as I've said in my factories, most factories, the people who work there, their first language is not English. And so you need to show it in a very visual way. And so I will always have the writing on the right-hand side to keep away from the actual image, and put details on top of it. Now, the reason why I put the writing on the right-hand side is because what will tend to happen, it's just from many years of experience, is if you put it on the left-hand side, the issue that you have is they'll print it out, and then they'll normally staple the top left corner. What that means is, as they're flicking through it, they won't see the left side, and so they'll miss the written details, which can be quite important. And so keeping all the written details on the right-hand side is it's just from a practical sense, they'll see it first rather than miss it on the left-hand side. Right, so let's get started. So I always letter, when I'm doing a detail, I'll always letter each point. And the reason why I'll letter it is because I will put measurements onto this And so you don't want them to get confused with the measurements in centimeters on specific details. You want it to be clear and precise. So you go A, not 1, because they might go, okay, that's 1 centimeter. Instead, actually that detail might be 0.5, for example. So I will always start with working from the top downwards. Now, I've already pre-drawn most of these things so that it makes my life a bit easier, so I can go through it a lot swifter. So what I will tend to do is I'll start at the top, and let's go with A. So A for me is I'm just trying to drag it in, sorry, bear with me. A is on the back of the neck, I've got a reflective tab detail. Now this tab detail is to put your headphones through. Now I need to show exactly how this is done in a very precise way. Now you can draw this by hand. You could also find an example of a garment which has a similar detail or the same detail and take a photo of it and put it in instead. I personally like to draw it because you can make it how you want it to be, but there's also other options. One thing which is really important if you take a photograph is to really just screenshot it and then insert it in, because what will happen is when you take a photo, it's too heavy, and so it makes the file extremely heavy, and so it takes forever to send it. You have to send it via WeTransfer, and it becomes a nightmare. So if we look here, what is going on is there's a silver tape going down the center back, and then there's the loop being inserted into the neck. So what I've done is I've stated here exactly how long the detail is. I've zoomed in so that they can see exactly what it looks like. So I've stated that it's 4 centimeters and 1 centimeter wide. I've shown that it's folded over and inserted into the neck, and how it works, like the headphone gets inserted in and stitching. I've also stated here that the tape is here. Now, what I need to state is how long this is going to be and the width of it. So the width of this is going to be 0.8 centimeters wide, or for this here, and then the length of this is going to be 20 centimeters. So you just pop that in right next to it, and it should be pretty clear for them that this is what it is immediately. So then that's the first detail, which is sort of, I want it to be prime of place because it's the main sort of difficult detail which they need to understand. So the second one is there's a 2 centimeter neck rib. Now this is folded and attached to the main garment using what we call a 5mm flat lock cover stitch. Now the way I normally show this is just by enlarging this section, and so what I'll tend to do is I will make a rib exactly how I want it to be. The way that I do a rib is I will make a dashed line. So let's do 2 by 2. Work 2 by 2, and then what I'll do is I will increase the width of it to fit inside, and then I will do a standard line like so, and then I'll frame that in a red box so that you can understand that that's the rib. Now, there we go. So I will just do that, and then what I will do is I will grab I'll make an arrow and shove it where it needs to go. Then what I'll do is I will again make this into a letter. So this is B. So that's the second one. Now the third one is the same thing is going to be used on the arms, and it's going to be I need to show exactly what the stitching is like. So I need to just put the stitch type here, actually. Sorry, I do apologize. So the stitch, I create stitches exactly how I want them to be so that I can reference it. Now, what you can do is you could take a photo of that type of stitching and insert it in. For me, I've already got the stitches pre-done. And so for me, it's just really easy to just drag and drop. So what I'll do is I will grab what I need and then shove it in. And that, you know, it's using a computer is actually so much quicker than any other way, because you've got things you can copy from previous files and shove them in, and you build like a little library. And so that makes it really, really quick and easy to do that. Now, so the next thing I have, which is number D, is there is a print. And when you do a print, it's really important that you state the dimensions, because I've had it come back where the print size is completely wrong. So I was saying that it's 30 centimeters width and 12.3 centimeters in height. So all you need to do, because this takes a little while to do, is I'm just going to drag this in, is you get your print, and then you just literally state with arrows that it's that width 30 and that width 12.3. Now, strangely enough, I've had it where people get really confused and they're like, but why is the dimensions aren't right, it doesn't seem right, and they can't figure it out. So there's a page at the very end which actually has the print sized exactly how you want it to be. That's super important. So next thing I have is E. So E, I'm going to zoom in and show you. We have ribbing at the side, which slants upwards towards the front of the garment. At the side seam, the side panel ribbing is 2 centimeters higher than the front ribbing. See image. So I know that it's this section right here. As you can see, it's 2 centimeters higher than the front section now, and it slopes upwards. So I need to show this in a very simple way. And the simple way is to take a screenshot. Hang on. There we go. What I do is I'll take a screenshot, and then I will grab the screenshot, if I can find this recents. I can't. Apparently I can't. So whatever, it happens. I've got it up here actually. So what I'll do, I've already got the screenshot in. So let's just imagine this is a screenshot for sake of mistakes. And then you'll just insert it in to the area. Now it's going over my logo, which isn't a problem, whatever. They know it's me because of all the other pages. So I've stated exactly the dimensions that I want. So here you can see it's 8.5 and there's 2 centimeter gap here and 6.5 here. So you add it all up and it's correct. So it all adds up to 8.5. So that's a relief. So this is what I will do here. So it's very understandable, very clear, and they know exactly what they're doing. Then the next thing is going to be the stitching. So the rib. So bottom hem rib and cuff ribbing is 5 centimeters wide, 7.5 centimeters wide, sorry, is folded and attached to the main garment using a 5 centimeter flat lock. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this up here, paste it here, flip it over. Oh, not that far, sorry. Flip it over. And there is our rib, quite simply. So I will make some arrows to go here. and here. Just show the stitching. It's really important actually that you try to know exactly what type of stitching that you want, because if you don't know, then the manufacturer will just do exactly what they want to do. So you need to state if it's a French seam or an overlock or a flat lock. And you might not know these things, but one thing you can do is you can take a photo and you can send it to them and they'll go, okay, this is a French seam. And then you'll know for the next time. And so, you know, if you want to do a French seam, you'll see it and then you can observe that seam and then you can just draw it on the computer. So this is page 1 done. And so it has everything very clear, very precise. Well, I say precise, but you can be the judge of that. But it's just trying to explain every single detail and to do it in a very visual way. Now, the next thing I do is I will do the inside details. Now, for me personally, the inside is just as important as the outside, because although the wearer might not see it when it's on, they'll see it when they're taking it off, the quality of the garment. And so there are lots of little things which are really, really important to make it on the inside look beautiful. And so consideration should be made on every garment and everything that you do, whether it's the inside, outside, side, or what upside down, whatever it is, it needs to, you know, you need to consider everything. Now, for me on this garment, the one on the inside, the main issue, or the main detail, sorry, not issue, there's never an issue because it always gets resolved, but the main thing is the back neck is finished using a 1 centimeter silver reflective tape, which is bound over the seam and finishes at the shoulder point. So I need to show exactly what silver looks like, because people might not know what silver is. They might not know that word, and they might not have Google Translate. So what I do is I will create a silver finish. So it's always good for you to find, so you could always go on the internet and type silver tape and, you know, insert that in. For me, I make the silver exactly how I want. And the way that I do that is I'll go to my gradient tool, I will do that. And then what I'll do to make it look more reflective is I will make a few grey dots and then I will drag them, tricks of the trade right here. I'll drag them across and then I will sometimes, not everything, but sometimes put it at a 45-degree angle. And there we go. Bosh. It looks like a bit, oh, no, it doesn't now. It looks like a bit of silver. So that's what I'll tend to do. I'll use my gradient tool and then mix it up a bit. And so that's a very quick way of making something look reflective. And you can even do that. So let's say you're doing a silk garment, for example. I can show you this. So let's say you're doing a silk garment. You can always just insert the gradient tool just like that. And you can put it like that and it looks a bit more silky. There's a little tip for you. Anyway, so that is G. And so you can see here that we have the reflective tape inserted into the neck exactly how I want it to be. Now I need to state that this is 1 centimeter wide and I need to show that. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to say this here. I'm going to do a square because that's the easiest way to make it look nice. And then I'm going to delete one side, make that look red or white, apparently, make that look red. And then what I will do is I will add little arrows to it. I normally choose number 10 because they look the prettiest. I don't know why, but they're arrow number 10. That's my favorite, just to let you know. And then I'll put 1 centimeter in like that. And if they get that wrong, then they're in trouble, not me. So, because I've already stated it. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The next thing I'll do is it's really important to state where the label is. So if you don't state where the label is or you don't show, people put it in the most random places. Like seriously, I've had it in places where I didn't even know they existed. So I said size and brand label attached to centre back neck under binding. Very simple, very straightforward, but sometimes people don't know. I've already got it here because I didn't want to make the label because it's a pain to make labels all the time. So this is number H. So what I'll do is I'll make it and I'll shove it right there where the label is, and so they can see it. Perfect. Okay, so next thing is going to be number I, which is neck and cuff and hem rib are folded and attached to the main body using 5mm flat lock stitch. So if we go over to the rib section here, I will grab that. I will paste that in here. And then all I will do is I'll make this bottom section grey so that it looks like the inside of the garment. So you know that that's the inside. And then I will make some arrows pointing to all the different areas so that there's no confusion whatsoever. Never does what I want it to when I need it to. There we go. Right. Then I will do some arrows quickly. Sorry, I'm trying to go as quick as I can. There we go. Done. Oh, that one's a bit, I don't want that. Flip that. Okay, there we go. So this is going to be number I. So there we go, I, done. And then J is armholes and sleeves are flat lock stitched. So I'm just going to, because this is boring, this part, I hate doing stitching. So, but it's needed. What can you do? So I'm just going to grab it here instead of showing you. And then I state that here, it's going to be like that. And then finally, if there's any specific paneling details, which they won't get or they don't understand how you want it to be precisely, I will have to try and draw that panel. Now the side seam here, I want this to be, I don't want it to be a side seam. I just want it to be one panel going around the body. So what I've done is, quite simply put, I've drawn what I think the side panel might look like. Maybe, so it might not be exact, but it gives them the idea, you know, so that they have as much information as possible. So that is the inside done. Quite simple. Measurement charts. This is the next thing, which is the bane of my life. And I think it's the bane of everyone's life. Now, this is, if you don't know, you don't know what sizing is. And so it's really important that maybe you buy some grading books. Just have a look online. There's some very good ones. And they will give you basic understanding on grading. If you don't know, then it doesn't matter. You can always ask your manufacturers or go to a grading company and they can do your grading for you. But it's always good to know. The more information you have, the better. Now, forgetting about the grading, we're going to be talking about this sample right here. So as I stated in the very first, which continues on every page, the sample size is a medium. So that's the size that we're going to be focusing on. And I've highlighted this here so that they know this is the sample that I'm talking about. And what you need to do is you need to give them as much information about where you're measuring from and to. And the easiest way of doing this is actually buying a garment which you feel has the right fit for you and your product. Not for you, but for your product that you want to do.
Oh,
and
just
to
interrupt very, very quickly, Inga's got a great question, which I think is probably relevant now, which is what is grading? So I think it's probably, we should explain that now.
Yes, 100%. So Inga, grading is the difference between small, medium, large, extra large, extra, extra, extra large, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 for women's. It's grading is the difference is getting the different sizes made accordingly. Now, there are set rules depending on each garment, which determines how much smaller from a size M, how much smaller each measurement is for a size small. So here, So let me continue before I go into more detail. And how much bigger from your medium is the L, and then
Can
the
you zoom in a bit?
Oh,
Sorry.
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 So I forget that you all don't have a massive screen like me. So I apologize. So is that big enough? Can you see now? Can you see, Charlie? Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. So it's the difference between what the medium is to the small, what the medium is to the large, the medium to the extra large, the medium to the extra extra large. That is grading. It's the differences between them. And as I said, there are set rules which will determine exactly the difference. So, for example, evolutions means the difference between the sizings for each measurement. So I know that the front neck drop is 1. So the front neck drop is that measurement there, right to the bottom there. I know that for a size medium, I want it to be 9 centimeters. Okay, just as an example. I know that for the 8, I want it to be -1. And for L, I want it to be +1. And then from L to XL, I want it to be +1 again. So 2, and then XXL. So you can see that there is a continuous change. Now, the most important measurement is actually going to be, I just need to find the number, 23, which is the full chest, armhole to armhole. So number 23. So this is this measurement right here. This tends to be your key measurement for any grade of garment on the top half anyway. And what that measurement is the general grade for the rest of the garment. So you always start at that measurement. So for example, I know that the chest on this garment is what we call a 4 cm grade. What that means is the difference between the medium to the small is 4 centimeters. So it's a 4 cm grade. So everything is 4 centimeters. That is the starting point which you will give to your grader to then get the rest of the measurements done. So if you know what type of grade for the chest you're doing, you're sorted for graders and whatever else. Is that understandable? Did you guys get that? Is that understandable?
I think so.
If you've got any questions, just tell Charlie and I will try and explain as best I can. Anyway, so what I'll do is I will try and give as many measurements as possible. If you buy a grading book, you will see all the relevant measurements that you need to take in order to give the pattern cutter or whoever you're using enough information to get it made. Now, as you can see here, what I'll do is I will number these. I won't letter them. Don't ask me why, but I just do it like that for these because it's just the way I've always done it. For written things, I will always do letters because the finer details, I suppose, on prints and stuff are there so they don't get confused. And then for the measurements here, I'll always do numbers. So each one has a number, each measurement, and each measurement has a size. So the pattern cutter can quite easily reference that it's 3, number 3, which is the half front neck curve, is going to be 15.5 centimeters. So they can do that and they can start building that. So that is very quick understanding on what a grading chart is. Now, for you guys, for sampling anyway, just buy a garment and measure and put down the size that you want to do and then leave the rest. You don't need to. So that's just super important. So just focus on the orange one. Orange. Am I colorblind today? Yellow. There we go. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be colors. Now, doing colorways. Now, for this garment, I know that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing 4 colors. I'm just going to do 1 because it gets very repetitive and very boring if I do all 4 of them. So what I will do is I have written down right here the 2 colors that I'm going to be working with. So that's the print color there, and that's the main fabric color and the rib color. So what I will do here is I'm going to go back to the first page. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to grab these items, these articles, this garment, and I'm going to There we go. Insert them into here. I'll have to shrink it down a bit so that I can fit everything I want in. Bear with me just one moment while I'm trying to sort my knife out. There we go. So what I'm going to do here is I put these in place. I normally keep them on the left-hand side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the colors in. So I know that the fabric is black and the print is sort of black on black, a gray. And then with these, I'm going to try to make black as well. So you just got to make it as obvious as possible. Okay, it's going to be in black. What I sometimes do is, well, what you can do is you can also change the color of the seams so that you can see them. So you could potentially make them into a gray so that actually they can see them like that. There we go. So you can make them into gray so they can see where the seams are. But what sometimes happens is they will do the seams in gray if you do that. So I much rather just do it in the color that it's supposed to do it in. And so we can see here that the print's going to be in this gray. Now what I will do here is, for this garment, it's in a poly cotton. Please don't hate me for that. But the reason why was for sportswear, and actually it needed something which didn't absorb as much sweat, which is pretty disgusting, but it is what it is. So what I will do here along the right hand side is I will start, my goodness me, I can't work tonight, been doing too many technicals today, is I will start putting down exactly what it is and what type of print this will be. So I know that this one is a polycotton. The reference number of the fabric is 9383 whatever, and the color reference is number 6 black. So if you're working with fabric that you already have from stock, you will refer to the code. If, for example, it's a specific color that you want to use, most factories will work with Pantone, and if you don't know what Pantone is, it's basically the code of every color which exists. That's the easiest way of, and each color has a code. So depending on what Pantone book you have will determine what the code is. So for example, I know that this is cotton, so I'm going to refer to my cotton book. So this is, I'm just making up a code, but I know that it's TCX. TCX means cotton. It's the cotton code for Pantone. So it's going to be that code. So you just put that in just in case. And then you can always give the name, whatever. Input the company where it's from. So always refer to where the fabric's from. So let's just say La La Land factory. By the way, this fabric was recycled polyester, so don't worry. Okay, so name for the print. I know that it's a playstyle print. That's the type of print that I want. And playstyle is just the type of ink that is used. It's almost like a glue, I suppose. And then we're going to be doing it in the same. What color do I want to do it in? Let's do it in the same color. So what I'm going to do is refer to main fabric for color reference. And then I will, and then you can get a perfect match. And so, yeah, there we go. And then you write the company. Well, you don't need to write the company if the factory can print that, so it's fine. So, and then I'm just going to do the back quickly. There. And as you can see here, oh, that's gone massive. That's weird. Whatever. That stitch has gone huge for some reason. There we go. So you can see here that actually you can see the silver just pinging off that, and that looks quite nice. So cool. Awesome. So I have 4 more colors here. So I have a gray with white. I have a red with white. and I have a blue with white. So once that is done, you can just drag and copy them in and then insert the right colors. The next thing which you would do is you would now write here your trims. And actually on the technical pack that I've given you guys, well, which you're going to download or get emailed to, whatever it may be. You should join the members club, by the way. It's great. So you should, then you can download it. What you should do is I'm going to put trims down the side here. So it just basically, you've got your collars right next to it. If there's any trims, so for example, let's just do one quickly so you understand. And if you guys don't know what a trim is, I'm going to explain now, so don't bother writing. Basically, a trim is anything which is not the fabric of a garment. So a button, a tape on the inside neck. What else is there, Charlie? A zip, a cord end, anything like that, which isn't the integral part of the garment, which isn't fabric and lining, is classed as a trim. So I know that this is, sorry, I'm going to class this as trim A, and this trim is going to be reflective tape, and then I'm going to put here iron on, because that's what you do, you iron it on. And then there'll be a booklet and you'll refer to what tape it is. I'm not going to go into details with this because it gets very boring. But you can have different types of shine, you can have different types of glues which you use. So you've got to refer to the company which you want to source it from. Anyway, there we go, bish, bash, bosh. So again, on the top right here, we have exactly the same, nothing changes. It is what it is. You just keep it so they don't know what page is. Also, what I haven't put on here, but is on the technicals, I've deleted too much, sorry, is all the page numbers. So we know what we're talking about because the issue that you'll have is they'll be talking about something. So let's say they'll be talking about the outside details, and and you might be referring to the inside details, and it gets very confusing. So you should say page 3 or whatever it may be. Actually, I'm just going to insert it now. I'm going to show you how I do it. So I go to other script, applications, desktop, documents, downloads, Dropbox. There we go. Adobe scripts, page numbering. It's a bit boring this, sorry, but it's always good to know. Page of, can you guys see this? There we go, page of pages. So you can see down here, actually what's happened is all of the numbers, I will just highlight them very quickly, sorry. So I've just inserted on all the pages, every single page, to go in the bottom right-hand corner. There they are, all highlighted, looking glorious. Just gonna move them right down. All the pages, so 7 of 9. So you can see here, 7 of 9, 6 of 9. It's always great to just like patterns. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos, but just like your patterns, what is really important to number your pages on your technicals as well. 1 of 9, 2 of 9, 3 of 9, just in case they lose them. And so you can send through the technical packet again, or they can reprint it out so it doesn't get confused. Super important. Okay, so the last page that I'm going to show, well, the last page that you need, which is, it's not really a crescendo, I'm going to be honest with you, but it's just as important as everything else, is the print page. Now you can see it's extra wide. I've actually sized already the print. Now I know that it's going to be 28 by 12.3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this bad boy here. I don't know why it's a bad boy, but it is. Anyway, I'm going to grab this. Shall I grab these as well? No, I'm just going to grab this because it will just get confusing. I'm going to pop it in here. And then what I will do is I will size it accordingly. So make sure it's locked. as you don't want, because if I do this, so I've unlocked it, 28, it will do that. So it's pretty annoying. So what you want to do, is you want to keep it locked, and that's the lock tool or constraint tool, whatever you want to call it. And it sizes it amazingly. So you can see it's 28 up. I don't know if you guys can see this because of the screen, but it's 28 up here, and then it's locked at, and it's 12.3.334, which is totally acceptable, whatever. So you can see that what's really important is that you size it, the print or the embroidery, whatever is going to be applied to the garment, that it's sized. You have sized it, or you've got someone to size it for you exactly before you send it to the factory, because you don't want them messing around with it and ruining it. So what I will do is I will just make a square. A square, yeah, listen to me, a square. That looks like a square, doesn't it? A rectangle. And what I will do is that just outlines it. Actually, no, I won't. I'm going to do something slightly different, which is a bit more understandable. So, sorry, excuse me, guys. I do apologize. I'm just going back on my words here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a frame. Now, a frame is just the same as a box, but it sort of highlights it a bit better, actually. So this is what I'm going to do. Sorry. I'm just going to make a frame. Now, what a frame does is it allows you to insert extra things if you need to. So let me just do this like so. Done. But guys, if you've got any questions on Illustrator, if you're using Illustrator and you want more questions, I've got it up here, so I'm just making it easier for me, but I just wanted to show you exactly how I do it. If you've got any questions about Illustrator, ask me after, and I can give you maybe some sort of idea, because it's a bit complicated sometimes, but I'll try and help you if possible. So there we go, and then I insert the arrows. So I know exactly that it's from point there to point there is 28 centimeters. And then I will do that. And that's basically how you do the print. I've already written that it's playstyle down in the technical. You can repeat yourself and put it there just in case. But for the sake of this technical, I'm not going to do it right now. So as you can see, this is the last page. It's just the print. It's fully sized. And one thing I forgot to say, actually, Charlie, is about screenshotting. I use, when it comes to measurements, so this measurement chart, which I forgot to state, so sorry about that, was when it comes to measurements, I've had it where I will send them the file in AI format or adapted PDF format where they can sort of grab things and tinker with them. The one thing I don't want them to mess around with is my sizing. And the reason is you will state a size, and if the sample comes back wrong, then you can go back to your sizing and say, look, this is wrong because it's this size. Now, it's happened to me before where they will send me the file back. I don't know why they do that, but they've put in their own measurements and it gets really confusing. So what I will tend to do is I will actually do all my measurements into Excel. And then what I will do is I will screenshot it like that. I hope you heard the click. And then I will insert that into my technical. And so they can't, no matter what they try and do, they can't tinker with it. It's really important that the measurements are yours and they're kept like that. If you want them to work on it, then fine. But like for me personally, I don't like things being changed unless I'm doing it or my team are doing it. I don't want my factory to do it. If they have an issue, then they tell us. I'd much rather them tell me than do something which I'd much rather them tell me and then do it rather than do it and not tell me, and then the sample arrives and it's not what I want. So try and keep everything locked down as possible. So what I do now is I will save this as a PDF. The one thing which is really important when you're saving as a PDF, especially in Illustrator, is to do a high quality print. So when you go to Illustrator default, is you go high quality print. And the reason why you do that is it prints out nicely, because most companies will print it out. I do work with some amazing factories which are paperless. I kid you not. The seamstresses have iPads attached to their machines, and they're just flicking through quite nicely, which is pretty amazing. Anyway, so yeah, we'll save the PDF. And we're done. And then you can send that straight through to your factories. It's all good to go. And that's a pretty sexy looking technical, if I do say so myself. Okay, that's it. So I will go back to, I will stop screen sharing now, so you can come back to looking at tired old me. And if you want me to go into anything and explain anything again, please do let me know. So,
okay, cool. Well, we've had a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one, I think probably we should do first, is do you send the AI file sized separately so that they can make it into a production file?
Depends on the factory, to be honest with you. It comes down to the factory. I normally try and group everything together so it doesn't get lost or confused or whatever, and keep it in an AI file or a PDF which you can just drop into AI and open, because then they can grab it and do whatever the hell they want with it. But I try and keep everything together as much as possible, group everything. Like when I'm sending groups of technical packs, I'll put that in a folder and give it a password, so that only the relevant people can open it, for example, but it's all together and it's not, it doesn't get lost in translation. I will also use TransferWise. No, TransferWise is a money transfer website. Sorry. It's been a long
yeah. I didn't even notice you said that then. WeTransfer, isn't it? The reason is it's really good because you know actually when they've downloaded it. So if they don't download it in 7 days, then they don't get the file, and then they have to politely ask you again. So you know that you know exactly when they've downloaded it. So you expect them to start immediately when they've downloaded it, and it's a really good way of understanding when they're starting the process. So little tricks of the trade: use WeTransfer or something similar. Obviously, I'm not trying to promote WeTransfer, by the way. So yeah, so that's that. Oh, great! That's a great cheeky trick there.
Yeah, so you know, so you'd be like, okay, you've downloaded it. When is it being finished? Do it.
Okay, good. Next question. Hang on. Oops, I've lost it. Would you? Oh, so actually, this is. Hang on. Oh yeah, a couple of people had the same question. I was wondering if there is any resource that you would recommend as a reference in case you're not sure what the type of stitch or knit you want is called.
Hang on, bear with me. I'll get it. I'll see if I've got the book.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, I'm trying to find it. Where is it? I don't have it. Oh yes, I do. Here it is. I'm not promoting anything. I'm not sponsored by anything at all. I swear to God. Apart from caffeine, coffee is my best friend. But what I tell a lot of my clients to buy, especially if they have limited knowledge, which is actually very, very good, and I hope that and it's very, very helpful. I say very, it's really helpful, is the Fashionpedia. I don't know if you guys have whatever. Basically, so Fashionpedia, there we go, screenshot that if you want. But basically, it's a visual dictionary of fashion design, and it goes through every single detail that you could possibly imagine, but not just clothes, handbags, zip types, finishings of stitchings, leather types, all the fabric types, and it's a very compact little book, but it's got so much in there for you to understand exactly everything that you could possibly know. And so I always, well, I don't anymore. I shouldn't anyway. It's a really great thing just to sort of go, okay, well, I've seen this stitch. What is it? how do I know what it is? Oh, it's a lock stitch. Okay, fine. Okay, so I'm going to put that in, and it shows you how to draw it or what it looks like, and it's brilliant. So I would advise you to get something like that. Maybe not that, but it's good. Yeah. So
that's so cool. I've never heard of that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I need that.
Yeah, we all do.
Amazing. We all need this. Okay, great.
I should have designed this book. I should have done that book. I'm always like, oh, what is that? Anyway. Yeah.
Okay, next question. Actually, two, again, very similar questions. Would you approach the sampling process for a handbag the same way as you would for a garment, e.g. using a toile? And the same kind of question, just wondering, since we do bags and not clothing, can James point out differences between clothes and bags in a tech pack?
Okay, there is no difference. You have to approach it in exactly the same way. And the reason is it's a product. And so I have to explain, if you class this garment as a product and a handbag as a product, you still need to show the outside view, the inside view, any specific technical details. If there's a print on it, show the print. If it's exactly the same. Like I'm currently working with a very, very luxury handbag brand. Like the bags range between 15,000 and 30,000 pounds, just to put it in perspective. So quite expensive. A fabric car basically. And oh, hang on, I've got a sample here. I'll just get it. Hang on. And what I will always do is, once I've done the technical, to see it in a visual way, I will I will make it out of card first of all, so that I can get the proportions right. I'm not really allowed to show you that, but whatever. Anyway, so I'll make it out of card just to get the proportions right, because it's a very expensive thing to do. So you do your technical, you'll get your proportions, you'll then do your sizing on your technical as you're doing your proportions in card. Card's my best friend with this sort of stuff. It looks at, unless you're doing armor, it's not really great to try and make a garment out of. But for leather and for sort of hard fabrics, which you're making accessories out of, card is your best friend. And then I'll just staple it together or sellotape it together, and then you can draw on it and adapt it accordingly. And it's a really cheap and easy way of doing it. So yeah, approach it everything the same way.
Everything the same. And that's the same, not just handbags, but for example, like a bag for products, cosmetics bag or something.
Yeah. Even packaging. I do a huge amount of packaging for brands because people ask for the full price, full process, full package, sorry. And so I have to do packaging to complement the garments. And I approach it the same way, outside, inside. If there's any print details, if there's any embroidery details, or whatever it is, the same approach.
Okay, amazing. Do you find the sampling process the most expensive part of the design?
It's a little bit how long is a piece of string now, because it depends on how big your production order is going to be. But for startups, if this is this referring to a startup company, you think?
Yes, I would say so, yeah.
So I would say that designing and researching costs nothing. But then your first major sort of chunk of money is sampling, because sampling is so much more expensive than getting a production run done. It tends to be double, 2.5 times the actual production cost, because you're making one, and it costs a lot of money to develop a product, and you should expect that. So I would say that's a big chunk of money. It's a bit of a sort of moment when you first start out. You're like, oh, really, that much? But yeah, because it takes a huge amount of time to develop a new product. So that's something to be aware of. And then production is the next massive chunk of money. So yeah, it is expensive, and it tends, depending on how many times you get it wrong, will determine how expensive it is as well. So that's something to be aware of. So as long as your technicals are on point, and you've done all your research, and you've used reference garments and things like that, or reference handbags if you're doing bags, then it tends to be less expensive. Put it that way. The more research you do in the beginning, the less it's going to cost in the end.
Okay,
and the better your product.
Okay. If you are creating just one product, would you still have a fashion calendar, or a calendar and a critical path?
Yeah, because you'll just totally. Doesn't matter if you're doing one or a million. Like, a fashion calendar is essential, because you don't want it to keep going on and on and on and on and moving the goalposts. If you've got goalposts set, then you'll get your product done within that time. So yes, definitely.
Okay, great. When you work with smaller brands, or actually, I think this question applies to large brands as well, as I well know, how do you deal with high minimum order quantities, particularly for fabrics, if the client is on a tight budget?
You don't use that fabric, basically.
Okay.
So it depends, because let's say that you found your perfect fabric, but the minimum order quantity is far higher than what you're anticipating. The options that you have are finding a new fabric, because there are many different variations of fabric and many different mills which are doing the same thing. So it's about researching and spending that time researching the right fabric for you, because there's always a mill, there's always a factory which is right for you, or as close to right as what it can be. Now, the second thing is you can always negotiate on price, and you can negotiate on minimums. Now, the lower you go, normally they put a surcharge on top. So if you can accommodate that surcharge, then game on, perfect. So for example, let's just give you a little example. Let's say the minimum order is 300 meters of what for one color, just as an example off the top of my head. If you're doing 50 to 100, let's say a roll of fabric is 50 meters, so you class it in rolls. 50, it's normally between 45 and 60 meters as a roll. So let's say it's a 50-meter roll. So from 50 to 100, so 1 to 2 rolls, it's a 30% surcharge. 100 to 150, no, 100 to 200 is a 20% surcharge, and then 200 to 299, 300, whatever, is a 10% surcharge. That's normally the way that it goes with factories, because they want to have new business, but it costs them a lot of money to develop and to take up a whole knitting machine or whatever machine it may be. It takes a lot of time to set it up, and so they want to keep it running for as long as possible, because it doesn't cost anything to run the machine, really. It's the man hours and the manpower of setting it up which costs the money and the time. So the more meters you're able to give them, the better for the factory. The lower it is, the more cost it's going to be for them, so they need to compensate for that. Also, another thing you can do is work only with stock mills. So to buy stock, that's really good. So that takes a little bit of research, and actually sometimes the fabrics can be a little bit naff, because they're stock, they're very standard articles which they know are going to sell very well. So if you're looking for something a bit more unusual or an unusual color, it's better to invest in buying the right fabric, and then maybe you dye it yourself with a different mill, because normally there's a minimum order quantity for dyeing or whatever. So there's always options. Hopefully,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I was just going to add on something as well. I think sometimes the perception is, as a small brand, you don't have access to big quantities of fabric, but actually big brands also don't have access sometimes. So I work with quite a lot of very large brands who only want 20 meters of fabric, especially shoe brands. They're making these
Children's
tiny
wear as well.
pieces. Yeah.
Oh my God.
One of the things that works really well is when a brand kind of jumps on the back of another brand's order. Yeah. So you can split orders. And actually, that's something that I am trying to do with the members club in particular, is get a really nice group of people together where you can start splitting your orders, so you can start getting hold of these amazing fabrics which have really high minimum order quantities. But yeah, another way, like James was saying, is if you want to do a nice collection, if you buy a plain fabric, you can dye it different colors, and that way you can get the same kind of texture but with different it's not all the same color. So that's another way that some of our clients often work around it as well.
I work with, for example, a luxury swimwear brand, very luxury swimwear brand, and the way that we approached our production was based upon what we could afford, and well, it's luxury, but they wanted the best fabrics, but the best fabrics had a minimum order of 1,000 meters, which is like, what? Say what? But what we did to do that is we decided that we were going to invest in core colors, and we're going to continue that through the season. So it doesn't. So from now until whenever to eternity, we're going to use these core colors. So they invested their money in the fabric, and then for prints, we just ordered 1,000 meters of white, and that allows us each season to do limited edition prints and to sublimate or whatever print technique you want to do on that fabric, and so not to waste fabric, and also to have that fabric and you can have a fast turnaround, but you know it's going to be a really good fabric as well. So yeah, that's that option also.
Okay, amazing. Right. Luke's asking, what is your best advice for researching factories?
Oh, best advice for researching factories. One thing you can do, so I find I never Google. I sounds quite bad. Like Google is the worst thing, because you end up on Alibaba and you get a really terrible factory. You just do. What I would give you advice on is find out, research what areas in what countries specialize in the product that you're making. Then what I would do is then you can Google factories in this area, not just sort of swimwear factory or factory, whatever, you know. So I know that in Vicenza is really good, whatever, or in Italy. So I'll go this type of factory in Vicenza in Italy, or this factory in Prato, or I'm just saying Italian names here, but you know what I mean. Where it is. And then from that you'll get really good ideas. Another thing you can do is, let's say you find your perfect fabric. Let's say that it's I'll just go back to swimwear because it's easy and it makes more sense. So you'll find your perfect swimwear fabric. So it's a recycled polyester, which is amazing, whatever it may be. It dyes like a dream, it sublimates like a dream, it's perfect. What you can always do is ask the factory which makes it if they could recommend any good factories which make the product, and they will, because they ship it to these factories, so they will know. And I've done that in the past. I currently work with around about 50 factories all around the world, which specialize in different things at different price points for all my different clients. So yeah, so I've been doing this for I'm not, do you know what? I'm not going to tell you. That's a really good way of starting if you've got no information whatsoever. Get yourself down to Premier Vision or to any other trade show and start speaking with the mills, find your fabric, and then speak with them and sort of go that way. And you can also ring them up as well. I found factories that way as well, especially very specialist things. So yeah.
What do you think about, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, the other thing that you could potentially do also is ask a friend who works in the industry for advice. It's always good recommendations from friends, you know, because they tend to be very honest, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, that's actually a great tip. Are there any trade shows that you go to, like SVP, things like that you would recommend?
Trade shows?
Yeah,
specifically for fabric, or
mainly for manufacturing, I was thinking, but either, I guess.
No, and the reason is the factories I've found that tend to go to these shows are desperate for work. I've found anyway from experience, and if they're not busy, then it normally means that they're not very good, unless they're a very young factory. So that's the advice I would give you, because there are small factories which want to stay small, but they've been, you know, which are very, very good. And if they're busy, why would they go to a trade show? Do you know what I mean? It's only when they're not busy that they go to that they have to go to a trade show. So I'd be very wary of factories in these for trade shows in particular. But you do find some gems every now and again, so it might be worth a look. So okay. Yeah, just be wary.
Okay. Have you got any great tips for finding recycled polyester in bag quality, apart from ours, obviously, which we already know about?
Any tips on recycled polyester for bags?
Yes.
The thing about polyester is it tends to come with extremely high minimums.
Yes, that's right.
Which is a nightmare. And a lot of it is made in the East, the Far East, which again is, and so I would say get yourself down to a good trade show and have a look, and ask if they have a polyester which you really, really like, but it's not recycled. Ask if they can make it in a recycled polyester, because what most mills will do is they won't make the yarn, they will source the yarn. And so if the quality is good, you can get the same, but get it sourced in, or you can find the yarn yourself and say, look, this is the yarn that I want to use, can you make it? So that's always a good way of making your own fabric instead of trying to find the right fabric.
Yeah, that's a great tip. This is another question. You mentioned research is key when designing. Are there any other types of research you would suggest doing after you have created your ideal customer?
Okay, so as you're getting along with developing your ideal customer, well, I do a muse normally, and alongside your ideal customer, you almost have to research the market that you're wanting to enter. You need to research price points which you're wanting to enter, so your competitors and what price points they do, because you know a fashion business is a competition. You're competing against other people, and so you need to understand what they're pricing at, and maybe you want to undercut them, maybe you want to be the same price as them, maybe you want to be more luxury than them. You know, that's really important to understand. And also research your niche. What niches are around your product, and what niche should you probably enter, and that will help you understand how to sell your product, where to sell your product, when to sell your product, all that sort of stuff. What else is there? Also, depending on your market will determine the sizes that you get made. So for example, if you're focused on the Chinese or Japanese markets, you have to do sizes which are a lot smaller. So one of my brands that I work with currently, and we really pushed into Chinese and Japanese market, well, mainly Chinese markets. We had to adapt from research. Obviously, we had to adapt our sizing and make it like XXS and XS, and then S, M, L, XL, XXL. But that was to focus for the lower end of the market. But it's only through research do you find that out. So yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, I think we've come to the end of the questions, but I was going to ask you one final thing. Any final tips for designers?
Any final tips for designers in regards to everything and anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so
any lessons you've learned that you wish you'd known from the beginning?
Yeah. Ask people for advice is really, really important. Don't think that you know everything, because I'm always learning and I'm still learning. And actually working with understanding your craft is really, really, really key. So never think that you know everything. I'm always surprised every day about things that I learn. I'm always learning new things. That's, I research. And the second thing I would say is, which I said in my videos actually, is research, 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 and more research. The more research you do for designing, for your market, for whatever, the more knowledge it gives you for doing the right product and making the right decisions. So, don't just necessarily go with the first option, even if it might be the right option. Research other areas. So for factories, don't just approach the first factory that you find. Have a look around and see and speak with them and understand if they're right for you, because they might be the perfect factory but completely the wrong mentality for you. So that's really important. Another thing I would do is if you pay peanuts, expect monkeys to work for you. It's really important that you pay whoever you employ as well as you can. Like, I'm not saying pay through the nose for it, but pay as much as you can afford, because you can get far better people. And even if you're on a budget, focus on the things which are core for you. Like, if you can design yourself but you can't pattern cut, get a pattern cutter to do it. If you can't sew, get someone to sew for you. Really sort of hone in on what you want to spend your money on and what you don't. Also, the last thing I would say is compromise is key to making the perfect product, because actually your design idea might not work in a functional way, or it might not be a sellable thing. And so listen to the advice that you get given and adapt your product accordingly to the market and what the market is telling you and what the factories are telling you and everything else. So that's really, really important as well.
Amazing. Okay, we have actually had another question in the
okay,
meantime. Sorry. So do you do the sampling with the factory that does production, or can it be somewhere else and then you send the factory the sample?
It's very it depends. I will how do I say this? So okay, I've got it now. Got it. Sorry. What I will say about this is, it's very pointless making a perfect sample with a factory which isn't going to be doing your production. It's absolutely pointless, and it's a waste of your money, because this one factory that you get the sampling done, the production factory might not have the same facilities, and so might not be able to do it in the same way, and actually that production factory might not understand on how to construct it, or there might be someone else who's saying, oh, we need to do it in a better way, or whatever. So never get a sample made, or try not to get a sample made by a place which isn't doing your production. What I would say though is, you can get your initial twirl done by a factory, so that you can give that along with your tech pack to the factory for sampling, and that's a really good way of trying to make it work, because you've got more information. They've got a physical garment and they've got a tech pack alongside it. Actually, I completely forgot something. So in regards to the tech pack, so I've got here the first sample which came back of the jumper that I made, and it was the first technical pack I sent. First sample came back and it was A1, absolutely to the T, perfect. So you can see the print is absolutely perfect.
And was that sample done with the factory that you ended up using?
Yeah, totally. Because they sourced the right fabrics for me, or I gave them the quality that I wanted and they sourced that for me, everything. So you can see that the stitching detail here is exactly how I want it to be on the bottom corner, as we saw. The way the sleeve is exactly right. So it's got the seam on top of the arm. I don't know if you can see. Can you see that, Charlie?
Yeah,
there. And then the back has got the reflective thing. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then it's got the little tag detail how I wanted it to be. And then on the inside there, the only thing that they didn't do for this sample was put the reflective tape on the inside. And the reason was that they couldn't source the right sort of material which would be comfortable on the neck, so I had to do that. But everything else was absolutely and so we just moved it straight into production once I'd sourced the right material to go on the inside of the neck, and game on. So sorry about that. Anyway,
well, that was really lucky. Forgotten. I completely forgot as well. Do you have any
here, like, what?
Sorry, on the same note, do you have any tips on finding people to do twirling?
Tips on finding people to do twirling?
Yeah.
So you can get me to do it. That's always a good thing to do.
Good.
Because I work with because I work with many different factories which are specialists in sampling and twirling and all that sort of jazz. You can employ a seamstress to come in and work for you. There are actual sample rooms in London, wherever, all over, which can sew it up, and to sew up a pattern. It doesn't necessarily need to be perfect, but it needs to represent exactly how you want it to be. So
oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot. Actually, Inga's in the Netherlands, so she says doesn't seem to be that easy to find people there.
Oh, Inga. So okay, so in Netherlands. Okay. So would she want to work overseas?
Probably not for a twirl, I shouldn't think.
No. Okay, so you can always use online facilities for local seamstresses. Like there's platforms that you can use like, I can't remember off the top of my head because I don't really use them because I've got my team now. But there are sort of like online platforms for freelancers which you can use, and you can sort of focus in on people specifically for the Netherlands who do sewing and and work that way. Because I always try and keep everything as close to home as possible. It's especially for small brands, because if there's a mistake, I can get on the tube, jump in my car, get on a train, go on an airplane for an hour or 2 hours, and it's done in a day. You know, if you can get there within a day and discuss everything within a day, that's perfect. If you have to travel halfway around the world to China, you're not doing the right thing. So yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I think that is all the questions now, I think. So I was going to say any final words of advice, but you've kind of given them all now. So.
Is there anything else I can give you guys? So we've covered the Fashionpedia, because I didn't even realize. What maybe I would say is, when it comes to designing, I always over design and then I strip it back, if that's the last thing I say, because you want to get all your ideas out as quickly as possible, because there's a gem in there which you need to find. And so I always over design and then filter it down, and that's a really nice organic way of doing it. So I would always advise you guys to do that. And who knows, you might get a crazy piece which actually works as well, which could be amazing and be a new seller. So yeah.
Cool. Well, that's been super, super helpful and really, really informative. And thank you so much again for all the amazing, amazing masterclass videos, and now spending an hour and a half talking to us and explaining how to do tech packs, which are really confusing and horrible. So, I
hate them as well, so don't worry. I feel the same way. It doesn't change. If you hate them, you'll always hate them. It gets a bit quicker, that's all. No, it's been my absolute pleasure. And I think it's really important. You know, I love startup brands, and because they always bring something new and fresh, and whenever you develop something, it's like having a baby. It's like, oh, when I work with massive brands, they're just like, yeah, cheers, James, thanks again for everything, yeah, bye. And that's about it, really. But with startup brands, it's really like a precious thing. And so if I can pass on any knowledge that I've gathered over too many years, as my bags show, then I'm more than happy to. Now, you know, follow me on Instagram if you want, at James Hillman, or have a look at my website, which is jameshillman.co.uk, or give me a call or email or whatever else. And if you need help with anything, and you know, thank you very much for having me, Charlie. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it, and I apologize to anyone who's had seen the videos, seeing me getting more and more decrepit as the weeks go on and as the videos go on. But it was a really, really hard couple of months when I was filming, because I was away in, what was it, like 6 different countries in like a month. So it was like for a week. So I was just like, oh, I didn't know what day it was. Anyway, so thank you very much.
Okay, amazing. And thank you everybody for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for coming in and listening.
Okay, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.